is a nuclear policy in the future, and the state opposition that looks likely to become the government doesn't want it. So what will happen?
Well, in the immediacy, there will be a greater reliance on the existing coal-fired power stations that we have.
There you have it.
And I'm okay with that, because if people can't afford to turn their lights on, if businesses are going offshore and you don't have a job, I think we should care about that. And we do. The longer term is a nuclear solution, like so many other countries in the world. In fact, I think we're one of the few industrial, established economies that doesn't have nuclear power. And we're saying we should have it the way every other major economy does.
So will you try and convince the Queensland state government if they win?
Well, I guess we need to change the EPBC Act federally. That is the biggest hurdle. So until we're elected, Australia is doomed not to have that option.
Scott, how is this playing out in Queensland? Because the state party is saying something different.
Well, friends can disagree, PK, that can happen. And
how big is the disagreement, Scott?
But David Crisafulli has made it very clear. It won't be happening in Queensland. There is legislation in place banning nuclear power in Queensland, and that's not going to change. He's made it very clear that's not going to happen. And now I expect if David is fortunate enough after Saturday to be the Premier, a Queensland Premier stands up for Queensland. It doesn't really matter who's in Canberra, Labor, LNP. You stand up for what you believe in terms of what's best for Queensland. But David has made it very clear it won't be happening in Queensland. Legislation is in place banning it. It's not going to change.
Why?
Well, he doesn't believe that's necessary in Queensland. He's building a policy of a mix of traditional fuels, renewables. He thinks that is the best way to determine reliable, affordable power. And I take on board what Susan said. That is what the whole issue is about at the moment. Across Australia, people worry about the reliability of power. And I think it's actually noticeable in this campaign. Labor has actually been very quiet on this issue at a state level, because I know they've done their own surveys out there.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I'm going to bring in Glenn Butcher, who is the Minister for Regional Development and the MP for Gladstone. I understand you're with us, Glenn. Welcome. Look, that point that was just made, I hope you just heard it, that Labor hasn't been playing up this nuclear issue. How is it playing out on the ground there where you are?
Well, nuclear is not on the books here for Queensland. We've made that very clear. And for the gentleman there to say that is certainly not true. We've been talking about a $62 billion energy and jobs plan for years now. It's certainly one of our really big issues that we face here in Queensland is energy. And only Labor here in Queensland is addressing it. You've got a federal government, when the LNP were in government for over 10 years, I think it was over 32 different policy positions on energy. And now this fanciful idea of having nuclear, which is going to be so expensive for Queenslanders and put the rise of the prices up. And I hear the Senator saying that it'll bring them down. There's no way in the world that these big, expensive nuclear reactors in Queensland will ever be built. They'll never be built in time, and they'll cost a lot of money.
Glenn, we're hearing that there's a big swing against your government, and you're up against it where you are in Gladstone. Is that what you're sensing? Is there a sense of, baseball bats for the government?
This is a big industrial town and a good union town. I'm very confident in Gladstone here that we'll be successful. It's a very, very good town, and a lot of people here know what they want. They want a government that's actually got a plan. They want a government that's got good ideas. And they want a government that's actually honest to the people of Queensland and to the people of Gladstone and Central Queensland region of what you're going to do and how you're going to pay for it. We are seeing the exact opposite on the ground here in Gladstone in relation to what the LNP are suggesting. People have asked me on the booth every morning. We're doing 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, and they want to know who David Crisafulli is and where is he.
Okay.
Why won't he tell us about it?
So you think you're doing okay, but do you expect at a kind of whole state level that Labor is set to lose power?
Well, it's certainly going to be challenging, but I'm a rugby league player, and I was at the Brisbane Grand Final when they were way in front, and Penrith come back to win. We're not out of this race. We are doing everything possible. We've got all of our people on the ground Central Queensland, Regional Queensland, North Queensland, they're working their butts off in the electorates, and we've seen the latest poll out today saying that the swing is coming back to Labor in Queensland. So we'll keep working right up until 6 p.m. on Saturday night, and I think a lot of people are going to be surprised at the result on Saturday night.
Well, we'll be watching closely. Thanks, Glenn. Now, we asked the Premier and the opposition leader to join us tonight, along with Robbie Katter from Katter's Australia Party. They all declined. But we thought that it would be interesting to just check in with some of the state players as well tonight. Murray Watt, obviously we've heard loud and clear that the LNP locally in Queensland are not interested in nuclear. That means that there is quite a different position, isn't there, federally and at a local level? Do you expect that would be honoured in Queensland?
If anyone believes that David Crisafulli is going to stand up to Peter Dutton, I've got a Brisbane powerhouse to sell you. It is not going to happen.
Hang on a minute. If he wins in a landslide, why won't he be able to?
Well, a couple of things. Peter Dutton, in his one visit to Queensland through the campaign, nuclear was raised, and what he said was the first thing we've got to do is get David Crisafulli elected as Premier. He sees that as the first stage of delivering his nuclear plan. If Scott is right and David Crisafulli is going to stand in the way of Peter Dutton's plan, then Peter Dutton has no energy policy. The only thing he's putting forward to deal with our energy needs into the future is nuclear, which is too expensive, too slow and too risky. It's a terrible plan to begin with, but he has no plan if David Crisafulli stands up to him. We all know that Peter Dutton will just barrel through, and like he does on every other issue, and force this upon Queensland and every other state. So if people want to stop nuclear happening in Queensland, the way to do that is by maintaining a Labor government which is on the record not only opposing nuclear but investing in renewables all over the state.
Okay. Larissa?
Thanks, Vicky, and thanks, Raylene, for your question. It's pretty clear, and indeed Susan referred to it in her response, that actually this is just a dangerous distraction. We know that nuclear would be decades away. It's no solution to the climate crisis, which needs solutions now. We know we could have 100% clean renewable energy, hopefully publicly owned, that would bring people's power bills down and, of course, keep the lights on. We know that's actually what we should be doing. And so the fact that Peter Dutton is so desperate to be clamouring about nuclear all the time actually just says to me that this is a smokescreen to continue their support for coal and gas. Now, unfortunately, that's a bipartisan position because we've seen, most disappointingly, we've seen more than 25 coal mines approved federally under the Labor administration, and at the state level, it's 38 that have been approved. So unfortunately, for all of the bickering about nuclear, actually they're on a unity ticket when it comes to new coal and gas.
True.
And we are shamelessly promoting publicly owned renewable energy as the way to generate jobs.
Can I just say, it is good to promote these things. Stephen Miles' government is delivering those things. State Labor is on track to deliver 80% of Queensland's power needs by renewable power by 2032. They have a state-owned clean energy company. It's happened. It's not about promoting these things or campaigning for them. It's actually
just stop opening coal and gas.